Instructions for your servant leader case study. Okay, I'm going to walk you through verbal expectations, and then I'm going to show you some examples of things I'd like you to incorporate in your paper. So your servant leader case study, you will choose one servant leader to study and research. Now note, this is a servant leader, not an organization. So I would be choosing Mother Teresa, for example, not the Catholic Church in which she served. Okay, so the leader itself. Choose a leader from history or one whose leadership has been documented in literature, meaning that there is data, there is research available to you. If you are trying to decide and your preliminary research is not giving you enough data, scrap that and start over. We need to have data to back up this servant leader case study. So here's what your research looks like. Now, again, let's assume I'm researching Mother Teresa. I would explore and document her organization, the geography in which she served, the cultures, and her professional background. Okay, first point. Second, discover and document your leader's characteristics and practices. How was this person a servant leader? What characteristics stand out and what practices made this person a servant leader? Thirdly, explore and document your leader's outcomes. Okay, what did they accomplish? Their successes, their fruits. And then we want to draw the line to how servant leadership made this happen. Now be sure and support your research with quotes, concepts, citations, and references. And this paper will be written in APA format. So let's talk about the paper, 5 to 7 pages, double-spaced, 12-point font, 1-inch margins, APA format, and of course we will use correct spelling and grammar. Other requirements, please be sure to include a table, a graph, a diagram, some visual to help clarify your research and emphasize those key points that you discovered. I will give you a visual example of that in a moment. Your paper should include these 6 key components: an introduction, which I will explain in a second here, context, okay? Again, that's the history, geography, culture. What was this servant leader up against? Principles and practice. What principles and practice did this servant leader apply? Effectiveness, okay? Their key accomplishments. I want you to summarize their effectiveness and list and assess strengths and weaknesses. And then most importantly, number 5, application. How will you apply this to your life and your career? What did you learn? And then your final component will be a conclusion. Now you will submit this paper via file upload in the LMS at the end of week 3. Please be sure and review the grading rubric. This simply quantifies each of those key components I just outlined, okay? Here's your grading rubric, 75 total points. Now I want to give you a couple visual examples. You'll note the introduction. You will identify the servant leader, you'll preview the content, and you'll simply share your purpose. So let's look at how that may look. This paper will explore the life and servant leadership of Mother Teresa. Okay, that is you identifying your servant leader and your key purpose. Now we're going to preview. I'll examine the context of her service, principles and practice of her leadership, and her incredible accomplishments. Lastly, I will discuss the personal application of Mother Teresa's leadership to my life and career. This, folks, is a quality introduction. It is one paragraph. It introduces your servant leader, your primary purpose, and it previews the content. Now, those key components that I just went through, let me make that one bold as well. Make these your headings. This will help guide the reader and also provide some structure. So introduction, put that in bold font. Context, bold font, create headings, okay? Use these key components as your bookmarks and give us those nonverbal elements. They become your headings and your organization. Now let's look at an example of a conclusion. I want you to see how lovely and simple this can be. You simply review your content and summarize your primary takeaway. So your conclusion is going to be almost identical to your introduction. Let's review. I just shared my findings on the life and servant leadership of Mother Teresa. I examined the context of her service, principles and practice of her leadership, and her incredible accomplishments. Most importantly, I will take with me into my career a heart of service and true commitment to serve the underserved populations in my organization, my community, and my world. Okay, again, one paragraph. We're simply reviewing what we just discussed at length and your primary takeaway. Okay, so now we've seen an introduction example, and again, use these key components as your headings, as well as a conclusion example. Hopefully that will give you a little piece that less is more in terms of structure. Clean, simple. Now I want to give you a couple examples of visuals, okay? Instead of you listing off the number served and the money raised and the years this happened in, let's put together some visuals that will exemplify what you were trying to say and clarify. So for example, I have put together a chart here, Mother Teresa's impacts, and you will see her top 4 impacts: missions of charity, homes for dying, homes for homeless children, and leprosy relief. And then I have quantified the countries she's reached, the money she raised, and the number she's served in thousands. Okay, now please note this data is somewhat fictional. I just put this together for a visual reference. Another example, who Mother Teresa served. This was her mission, to serve the underserved. So I have quantified here those populations: orphans, dying, sick, marginalized women. And in your paper, I would quantify that with a number. But again, what this is, it's visually conceptualizing and putting together your key findings and research. So I want you to have at least one visual reference within the body of your paper. Okay, so once again, this is your servant leader case study. It is worth 75 points, 5 to 7 pages. Please be sure to include each of these following components, as well as a minimum of 1 visual. All right, I look forward to reading your papers and all your great findings.